gotten a lot of private messages from Asian people, from other people, and saying like, oh, I can't be out right now because on my Instagram I'm not out, but you know, thank you for talking about the things that you talk about, and you know, for making me feel seen even though I have to be in the closet for a while longer.
Hi, Unconventional Asians. For those who don't know me, my name is Clover. I'm a flight attendant who's now a podcaster who strongly believes that we don't have to fit into any stereotypes and that we can live an unconventional lifestyle authentic to you. To celebrate Pride Month, we have our guest Michelle, who celebrates polyamorous relationships. Since just the end of February of this year, she's garnered quite the following on her Instagram page, Polyamorous While Asian. Let's hear her experience being Asian and queer. So welcome, Michelle, to the show. Just to give the audience some background information, where are you from? What is your background?
Yeah, so I'm born and raised in Portland, Oregon. My family is from Taiwan and China, but yeah. So I was first generation born here.
Okay.
And I've lived in Portland my whole life, and I'm not exactly sure if I'll ever move.
So basically, you're non-monogamous, right? So can you give us like the different definitions? Because there's apparently a lot of categories, and I even want to learn that myself. So if you don't mind educating us about that, please. Yeah.
Sure. So non-monogamy is like the umbrella term for any relationship that doesn't fall under like the conventional exclusive monogamy. So it can really range. It could be like swingers who are more like sexually non-exclusive.
Yeah.
And then it could be more like a kitchen table polyamory, which is a term for when people date and it's more kind of like a family where you get to know like your partner's partners.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah.
And then there's like in the middle, there's a whole spectrum where like, oh, people can date outside of the relationship, but maybe they don't ever meet the other partners.
Right.
There's so many combinations.
Yeah.
I personally fall under my labels that I would use would be non-hierarchical solo polyamory.
Okay. So what does that mean?
Oh God, yeah, so many terms. But so hierarchy is a term where that addresses the structure of whether or not you, I guess, kind of more or less rank partners, where it's like, oh, I have my primary partner, maybe I live with this partner, or I spend the most time and emotional energy with this partner.
Yeah.
And then there are maybe secondary partners that I see less often and expend less energy.
Okay.
For me, since I don't live with any partners, I don't want to live with any partners.
I see. Okay.
I don't necessarily have like a hierarchy like that, where it's like, oh, this partner's definitely most important, and then this partner, and then this partner.
Right.
And so that's the hierarchy and solo part.
I see. How do you get into this whole journey? Like, how do you discover it? When was that?
So I've been non-monogamous for about a little over 8 years now.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
God, how time flies. So the way that I was introduced to it wasn't super great, because I was in a relationship with a man who was like much older than me, and I was only about 18. And he introduced it to me through a book called Sex at Dawn, which was a really good book. When I read it, I was like, oh, I'm not crazy for thinking all these thoughts about how monogamy doesn't necessarily work all the time, because the book is basically like an anthropological view of non-monogamy and the history of non-monogamy in humans. And so basically, since reading that book and having that relationship, even though that relationship wasn't very good, I realized that that non-monogamy works best for me, and I don't think I could ever turn back to monogamy.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, I mean, it opened the doors for you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you out? Like, you told your family and friends? Well, I guess you're on Instagram, but on Instagram, sometimes,
I'm at this point where any like friend who's close to me knows that I'm monogamous, and they're not judgmental about it. I mean, if I had any judgmental friends about it,
you wouldn't be friends with them.
Be friends, exactly. The only other person in like my family that knows is my sister, because we're super close. But I haven't like explicitly told my family yet. It's one of those, at this point, I'm not opposed to having that conversation with them. But I don't really want to just bring it up.
Or like out of nowhere.
Right. Because I know they would be uncomfortable with it, and I know I would be awkward with it.
Right.
But I know that they wouldn't like, kick me out or shun me or anything like that. I think it would just kind of an uncomfortable conversation. And I don't think that I have like the tools to have a good conversation with them about it.
Right. Maybe we'll interview more guests in this arena and then suggest some tools for you later on how they did it, right? So it would be, I think, really useful for people to figure that out, because that uncomfortable conversations with the values that our parents have in the previous generation, especially if they used to live in Asia, that would really be so opposite of what we are open to nowadays in Western culture. Do you think you will feel more like yourself though if you're able to express like your sexual preference with your parents?
I think so. Like I feel like pretty certain that if my parents knew that I was bisexual, that they would be okay with it. Like there'd be a bit of like discomfort, but I know that my mom wouldn't have any problem if I were gay or anything like that. So that aspect of it, I'm not super worried about. It's just maybe trying to justify like, oh, I have multiple partners, and it's not just a phase. Like it's not like, oh yeah, I'm gonna settle down and get married and have 2 kids later on. This is actually how I like to do relationship. And so I guess I'm just not ready for that level of judgment from my family.
No, fair enough, absolutely.
I still have a lot to work on. I talked to my therapist about it too.
Okay, that's great. Yeah. And does she have any, well, I guess therapists are not allowed to give you suggestions per se. I guess they're just guiding you in what
she does give like sort of suggestions, but more like guiding me on how I feel. And basically she's like, she reassures me that, Michelle, you'll do it on your own time. Like you'll find a time that works, and then when you're comfortable, you'll do it.
I think especially, was that a cat?
It was a cat.
That's awesome. Especially in Asian culture, right? It's so hard to bring up that difficult conversation. It's just so typical of us to never bring up anything taboo, right? Especially if like the values, or I mean, we just don't even talk about sex, which we all have it,
right?
But then let alone like our preferences. That's like TMI, like way too much information. But I guess when it's normalized and when we have representation like you, and it becomes easier to talk about it, right? But the first step is to have representation. So thank you for being so brave and just starting the conversation, because I think it's really necessary right now. And hopefully inspire other people to do the same thing, and it's totally okay.
That's my hope too. I just myself want to see more Asian represented.
No, it's great. So you started the page not too long ago, right? Just a few months, you said.
Late February.
You've garnered quite a bit of a following too. Did people privately message you as well?
I've gotten a lot of private messages from Asian people, from other people, and saying like, oh, I can't be out right now because on my Instagram I'm not out, but thank you for talking about the things that you talk about, and for making me feel seen, even though I have to be in the closet for a while longer.
And what is your Instagram handle?
So it's long, but it's at Polyamorous while Asian,
which is pretty easy though to remember. Which is great. It's long, but it's easy to remember. And it's like so on brand. How did your sister react actually when you told her?
Oh gosh,
or your friends?
Because it had to have been a while ago. I think my sister just thought it was kind of weird. But I think she took it in stride. more or less. Like, she's pretty chill. She's super chill, and yeah, we're super close. And she's like, okay, yeah, whatever works.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, that's great. Okay. Yeah, that's why I think it's easier to start with people who are open-minded, who you understand that they will accept you for who you are, right? And then you kind of start like widening your circle to people who are maybe like on the fence, and then to people who are completely like, okay, this is very opposite of what I believe in. Yeah. Maybe you have struggled with your identities, because especially being Asian and then being polyamorous, just living in America, have you found a way to accept yourself for who you are and just embrace your identity?
Yeah. So it's interesting because like Portland actually has a sizable polyamorous community.
Okay.
So it's so people know a little bit more about it here, even if they aren't polyamorous themselves.
Right.
Like on dating apps here, you'll see people, of course, say like, oh, I'm non-monogamous, but more and more you'll see people who explicitly state that they are just monogamous. So there are enough people who are non-monogamous that it's like people have to explicitly state that they're not into that.
Right. That's so great.
Yeah, in Portland, it hasn't been too bad. Like, I haven't like face to face had any judgment of me with regard to non-monogamy, although I know not everyone is that lucky. But and also there's like a lot of queerness, a lot of gender non-conformity in Portland, and so like being bisexual isn't a big deal.
Right.
But yeah, like a lot of people that I encounter in Portland are white, and so not as many like Asians.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of Asians are a bit more traditional about that. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So again, being just the representation itself, it's like giving us the permission to do it as well.
Right.
If you're inclined that way, right? Yeah. And I guess being in the community that support each other and understand are like-minded. So I guess that's precisely why you started your page, right?
Yeah.
So you can find other people. So when you're dating, then how does it work? Do you like just explicitly tell the other person what type you are, I guess? And then if you're on the same page, then you proceed from there?
Yeah. So for me, I'm pretty open with dating. Like, I don't have a lot of expectations. Like, when I go on a dating app and we start messaging, it's like I just because every dynamic is different, is unique.
That's right.
So I like to allow as much room for it to grow wherever it grows. And on all of my profiles, I always near the top put that I'm polyamorous.
Okay, right.
And sometimes I'll put like what the specific labels are, but the labels can mean so many different things. So once a person sees that I'm non-monogamous, I guess there's just more of a conversation. Like, oh, there's always the conversation of what does your non-monogamy look like? And then yeah, people list like their history and what their current partner structure is like, and then and then we go from there.
Okay, that's very interesting. And I have a question then, like, do you ever get jealous, like if you're in situations with multiple partners? Because I am more traditional in that sense. Like, I would, that's why I don't think I can do it. But like, what goes through your head, like when you know that person's dating the other person? Yeah.
So jealousy definitely still exists, and I don't think jealousy is necessarily like a barrier, kind of like a deal breaker for non-monogamy. It's really how you want to, I guess, communicate or deal with it with your partners. So since I've been doing it for 8 years, my structure has changed and my outlook has changed a bit. Toward the beginning, I was like a baby, 18 years old to early 20s,
super young.
Still a lot of insecurities,
a
lot of like self-esteem, like trying to find myself. So there was a lot more jealousy then, and fewer tools to kind of communicate, work through it. Also having a partner that didn't really have the tools or maybe the emotional capacity to work through it. But these days, when I do feel jealous, I have partners that I can like directly go to and be like, I'm feeling like I'm having a sad day, or like I'm feeling insecure, and it doesn't come from like a place of anger. It's more like a place of like sadness and please help comfort me.
Oh, that's so nice. Yeah. And they can empathize with that.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we can have like a really good heart-to-heart talk and like
that's so amazing.
Talk through my like irrational insecurities.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, it's like, oh God, it's like, it has made me cry so many times.
Oh, I will too. Yeah. But that's just with any relationships, just having that heart-to-heart conversation, just opening yourself up to the vulnerabilities, to like all the insecurities that we have as humans, right? Like, doesn't matter what your sex is, gender, I don't know, like race, whatever, we all share that human experience, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, that's so beautiful. That's good. So just pretty much effective communication, like being
vulnerable
and I mean, real.
That's applicable to like non-monogamy and monogamy. Effective communication.
Yeah, exactly. And if the person on the other end is mature enough, they will hold space for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. How do you stay strong in your beliefs, in your preference? Because I would imagine it would be pretty hard when everyone else is still living that traditional path, right? And also not doubting yourself, and just accepting yourself for who you are, really.
Yeah. So again, like, fortunately, Portland is pretty accepting overall.
Right. So I guess that's the place to be.
For polyamory, it is a good community to be non-monogamous.
Right.
So in that sense, I don't feel a whole lot of pressure from the outside to not be non-monogamous. There's still a lot of like most media, like movies, TV shows, is like about monogamy, but I feel like I have explored enough of non-monogamy just firsthand that I don't feel like pressured by monogamy to be like, oh, I have to conform to those ideals. I have to go along like the relationship escalator and just kind of like date and then meet the parents and then get married and have kids.
Right.
Yeah, and I guess these days being able to find people and know where to look for people who are, like, feel similarly about monogamy or non-monogamy.
And where do you look, actually?
So my in-person game isn't like super great. So I'm not one of those people who like goes to a bar.
That's okay. Yeah. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. Yeah. And it's harder to gauge too. Like, you can't be like, hey, are you,
right?
Yeah. It's like, I can't tell. Yeah.
Yeah. And on dating apps. I use like OkCupid and Tinder. And I feel like there's it can be easier to establish like consent in that arena, because like, oh, I'm like specifically messaging you, and the other person can choose to message me back or not.
That's right.
And I'm not invading like their physical space. And so I basically was like OkCupid and Tinder, and just looking for people who also put like non-monogamous on their profiles.
Right. Yeah. Cool. Interesting. Learned something new today. So I saw on your Instagram you put relationship anarchy. What does that mean?
Yeah. So that is so a lot of mostly non-monogamous people use that term because because there is still a lot in polyamory, like kind of monogamous ideals, where it maybe surrounds like a couple. And a couple, like, they get married and they buy a house, and then they still do a lot of monogamous things.
Yes.
And there's still a lot of like hierarchy.
Right.
And that isn't true for all couples who are polyamorous. But relationship anarchy specifically was created, I guess, to kind of like push against that, and to go further and to sort of like try to be a bit more radical with like relating to people, whether it's through love or sex, just like any sort of intimacy or relating that doesn't just fall into like a conventional hierarchical kind of exclusive structure.
Right. So for example, not having to be married, not having to share finances would be the very conventional way of how people, I guess, relate to each other in terms of relationships, but now you're challenging that and saying that, well, actually, do you have to follow that? If you want to, absolutely you can, but if it's not something that you resonate with, you don't have to go there.
Exactly.
Is that what usually what it means? Okay, great. Okay, awesome. Yeah. And I will definitely recommend our audience to go check out your page as well, because you have really good definitions and a very clear direction in what they mean as well. So if you want to educate yourself on it, definitely go there. And I love that you also talk about body neutrality, not body positivity. So what is the difference actually between the two?
Yeah. So and they're not necessarily opposed to each other. They're not opposites. So body positivity is more like a movement where it's like, oh, you have to, like, you are encouraged to love your body and like to see your body and be like, oh man, yeah, you're hot. And yeah, to actively feel good about your body, which can work for a lot of people. But then it doesn't work for a lot of people because you have to like actively love your body, which can be very difficult.
Yeah, sometimes you just don't, and that's fine. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
and so it can make days where like you feel bad about your body even harder because you feel like, oh, I should be loving my body. What's wrong with me? Body neutrality is another alternative, and yeah, it's my therapist told me about it, and it just blew my mind. Where she's like, yeah, so you can feel like positive about your body, like good about your body. And of course, there's all this messaging outside that tells you you need to feel bad about your body. But what if you just kind of were neutral about your body? What if you just kind of saw it as like this kind of fleshy vessel that you use, that it like holds your brain and it helps you get around? And that's it. Like, you don't have to feel like you're sexy. You don't have to feel like you're gross. It's just there.
Yeah, it is what it is. Yeah,
exactly. It is what it is. And it's a good body because it helps you get around.
That's true. Yeah. Without it, you wouldn't be able to do all those things that you can achieve. Yeah. I love that, because then you're not shaming yourself in any way, positive or negative. Because like, if you feel like you should be positive no matter what size you are, then when you can't achieve it, then you go down that rabbit hole of, okay, I should do this and I should not, whatever, right? It's always shooting yourself that makes you hate yourself even more at the end of the day, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And then when you're on the other flip side, where you hate your body, then because society is shaming you for hating your body, then that's not healthy either. So it's like being neutral makes the most sense. I love that.
Yeah. And it's not for everyone. Like, body positivity is still great. It's just another alternative for people who have maybe never considered that before. Like me.
Yeah. Talking about never considering something before. So if you didn't live in Portland, would you think you'd be exposed to this whole community?
Oh God, I've wondered about that.
Yeah. Because you don't know what you don't know.
Right. And it's like most other like major cities will have some sort of like maybe non-monogamy community.
Yes.
So it is really hard to say, but I feel like especially since now I feel like it's getting a little bit more into the mainstream, more and more, like you'll see some TV shows or whatever kind of dancing around it, and so I feel like I would have been exposed to it. And I don't know, I feel like because it feels so right now that I would have gotten into it eventually. It just, I don't know if I would have gotten into it as early.
That's right. Okay, cool. And since we're Asians, why is it so important that white people don't sexualize Asians and have like yellow fever?
Well, I mean, I think just long story short.
It's okay to have, but I mean.
It's long story short, it's just, because we deserve to be seen as people. People first. Right. Not just objects, or not just sexual objects, just, I'm an individual. I have my own idiosyncrasies. And
like anything in life, right? We're all unique in our own way. Yeah. Just because we're Asians doesn't mean we always follow that stereotype.
Oh, yeah. And even if we did follow, like, even if an Asian person does follow all the stereotypes, they still deserve to be seen as an individual person.
100%. I love it. That's great. I just love everything that we talk about right now, is because at the end of the day, it's really about self-love and self-respect.
It is.
And about really just accepting whatever thoughts that come up, or whatever shape and sizes and preferences, right, in every way possible. That's why it's so inspiring for you to come on the show and show people that hey, it's okay to just be you. So what do you have to say to the ones who might still be in the closet or too afraid to be seen?
I mean, to people who are in the closet, it's okay, you know, not everyone has the safety or has the ability to come out, because, you know, sometimes it can be very dangerous. And so it's understandable. I know a lot of people feel shame about being in the closet, like, oh, kind of like the body positivity thing, where it's like, oh, I feel like I have to come out and be proud and loud, and you know, tell everyone. But it's like, it's really, the goal is to just exist, and to be yourself as much as you can. And so being in the closet, like, it's hard, but shouldn't get down on yourself. And there are spaces out there that
they can reach out and have support, right, from other people who are like-minded. I love it. Oh, that's great. Well, that was wonderful. Thank you so much for being on the show and sharing your insights with our audience. Definitely, it's inspiring for me as well, to other people. And not to say that, like, it might open up your eyes to this whole new world. You never know, right? Because if you're not exposed to it, then you might not know it, right? That's like something on the other side of, you know, the field, or whatever you call it. And it's okay. And so all those thoughts that you previously have, that question about monogamy, maybe it's time to, like, kind of dig deeper to think about it, right? Especially now we have this, like, time to reflect, since we're still going through that, you know, crisis. So thank you for, you know, being the representation for us.
As if being queer is not hard enough, being Asian on top of that makes it even more challenging. But now, Michelle has created a community where you can join and feel heard and seen. You find her Instagram information in the description box below. We've also linked the book that she has recommended. Share, like, and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more candid conversations on what it's like to be an unconventional Asian. Until next time, dare to be authentic. Join our community at Unconventional Asians on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube to hear more.